The invisible parliament within you welcome. Pause for a moment, close your eyes if you can, and breathe deeply. Right now, in this very instant, something extraordinary is happening inside you that has nothing to do with your conscious will. Trillions of tiny beings are having conversations. They are making decisions about your mood, your energy, your desires. They are influencing whether you feel happy or sad, anxious or calm, motivated or exhausted. And here is the most profound truth. You are not a single individual making these choices alone. You are an ecosystem. You are a parliament of citizens, most of them not human at all. For centuries, we have understood ourselves as isolated beings. We have believed that our thoughts originate in our brains, that our emotions are purely ours, that our decisions come from a unified self steering the ship of consciousness. But modern science reveals something far more beautiful and far more humbling. Within the boundaries of your skin lives a universe of living creatures, each with their own chemistry, their own signals, their own influence on who you are and how you experience the world. These are not parasites or invaders. They are partners. They are collaborators in the most intimate dance of existence. The microbiome, as scientists call this internal world, is not a new discovery. Bacteria have lived within human bodies for millennia, evolving alongside us, shaping us, becoming us in ways we are only now beginning to understand. But what we have learned in recent decades transforms everything we thought we knew about ourselves. The bacteria in your gut produce the same neurotransmitters that your brain uses to think, to feel, to remember. They influence your immune system, your metabolism, your sleep quality, your ability to handle stress. They even shape your preferences, your cravings, your attractions, the very things you believe are uniquely yours. This is not a story of disease or dysfunction. This is a story of profound interconnection. It is an invitation to understand yourself differently, to see yourself not as a fortress defending against invasion, but as a living garden tended by countless invisible gardeners, to recognize that your inner world is far richer and more complex than you ever imagined. When you feel a flutter of anxiety, when you experience a wave of joy, when you make a decision that seems to come from your gut, something deeper is speaking. A collective intelligence is communicating with you, through you, as part of you. Before we begin this journey into the microscopic universe within you, I would like to invite you to subscribe to the Relaxing Science channel. Give this video a like and share in the comments where you are listening from and what time it is there. Your presence here matters. Your curiosity matters. And the story we are about to explore together is one that will change how you see yourself forever. As we move through this experience, we will not rush. We will not overwhelm you with endless technical details or complicated terminology. Instead, we will walk gently through this invisible landscape, using science as our map, but poetry as our language. We will explore what it means to be not one, but many. We will discover how bacteria whisper to your brain, how they influence your mood, how they shape your reality in ways both profound and practical. We will learn how to listen to these ancient voices, how to honor this relationship, how to live in greater harmony with the trillions of beings that make you whole. This is not about blame. You have not failed because you feel depressed or anxious. Your body has not betrayed you. What we are discovering is that you have never been truly alone in your struggle, and you need never be alone in your healing. There is a conversation happening inside you, and once you understand its language, once you learn to listen to what your bacteria are trying to tell you, everything begins to shift. Your sense of self expands. Your compassion for yourself deepens. Your understanding of what it means to be human transforms. The journey begins not with judgment or fear, but with wonder, with awe at the complexity and elegance of your own being, with gratitude for the countless creatures that sustain your life every single moment, with recognition that consciousness itself might be far more distributed, far more collective than we ever dared to imagine. So settle in, find a comfortable position, let your breathing become slow and natural, and prepare yourself to meet the billions of partners who have been living within you all along, waiting for you to finally hear their voice. Trillions of citizens. Your body contains approximately 37 trillion human cells. This is a number almost impossible to grasp. If you tried to count to 1,000,000,000,000, speaking one number per second without stopping, it would take you 32,000 years, 37 trillion cells, each one containing the full blueprint of your humanity, each one contributing to the unified experience of being you. It is staggering. It is humbling. And yet, this number tells only half the story. Living within and upon your body, in a density so concentrated it rivals the most crowded cities on Earth, are bacteria, not just a few, not thousands or millions. We are speaking of 39 trillion bacterial cells, more bacteria than human cells. In some estimates, the ratio is even higher. These bacteria are not scattered randomly. They are concentrated primarily in your digestive system, clustered most densely in your colon, where they form communities so organized and so complex that scientists now recognize them as a genuine organ. An organ you cannot see, cannot touch, but cannot live without. If you were to remove all the bacteria from your body right now, you would lose approximately 2 pounds of weight, 2 pounds of living, breathing, communicating organisms that are fundamentally you, as much a part of your being as your heart or your liver. But the weight is almost irrelevant compared to the function. These bacteria are not passive passengers. They are not hitchhikers taking a free ride through your digestive system. They are active, dynamic participants in every aspect of your health and consciousness. The diversity of this bacterial world is almost inconceivable. Your microbiome contains somewhere between 500 and 1,000 different species of bacteria. Each species has its own characteristics, its own preferences, its own role in the larger ecosystem. Some bacteria thrive in acidic environments. Others prefer neutral conditions. Some are aggressive competitors, dominating space and resources. Others are quiet collaborators, filling specific niches that nothing else can fill. Together, they form a parliament of extraordinary complexity. Think of your microbiome as a rainforest. In a rainforest, there are thousands of species of plants, insects, birds, and mammals. Each one has evolved to occupy a specific ecological niche. Each one depends on countless others for survival. Remove one species, and cascading effects ripple through the entire system. The birds that eat certain insects disappear. The plants that depend on those birds for pollination begin to fail. The predators that hunt those birds must find new food sources. Everything is connected to everything else. Your microbiome operates on exactly this principle. The bacteria in your gut are not uniform. They are not all the same. In fact, the bacterial composition of one person's microbiome can be as unique as a fingerprint. Your specific collection of bacterial species, the relative abundance of each type, the ratios in which they exist together. These are shaped by your genetics, your diet, your environment, your medical history, your stress levels, and countless other factors. Two people could have completely different bacterial communities, and yet both could be perfectly healthy. Or two people could have seemingly similar bacterial compositions and experience completely different health outcomes, because what matters is not just which bacteria are present, but how they interact, how they communicate, how they function as a collective. The bacteria in your microbiome have been living with humans for so long that they have evolved alongside us. They have become dependent on us, and we have become dependent on them. This is not a recent development. Archaeological evidence suggests that human bacterial relationships have been evolving for hundreds of thousands of years. The bacteria in your gut are not invaders from outside. They are your biological heritage. They are part of your evolutionary story. They are woven into your DNA in ways that go beyond simple genetics. Your microbiome includes bacteria from the phyla Bacteroidetes and Firmicutes, which together make up the vast majority of your gut bacteria. But it also includes actinobacteria, proteobacteria, and dozens of other phyla. Each of these major groups contains multiple species, and each species contains multiple strains. The variation is extraordinary. Some of these bacteria have been studied extensively by scientists. Others remain mysterious, their functions still not fully understood, and some have never been cultured in a laboratory at all. We know they exist because we can detect their genetic material, but we have never been able to grow them in isolation, to study them directly. This means that much of what happens in your microbiome remains a mystery, A hidden intelligence operating beneath the surface of consciousness. What we do know is that these bacteria are communicating constantly. They are producing chemical signals that travel through your digestive system and beyond. They are sensing the presence of other bacteria and responding accordingly. They are competing for resources, forming alliances, creating biofilms that function almost like multicellular organisms. They are responding to the food you eat, the stress you experience, the medications you take. They are adapting. They are evolving. They are engaging in an intricate dance of cooperation and competition that sustains your life. When you eat a meal, your bacteria are not passive recipients of nutrition. They are active participants in the process. Different bacteria prefer different foods. Some thrive on fiber. Others prefer fat. Some can digest complex carbohydrates that your own enzymes cannot break down. When you consume food, you are not just feeding yourself. You are feeding your bacteria. You are selecting which bacterial species will flourish and which will diminish. You are, in essence, gardening your own internal ecosystem with every bite you take. This is the foundation of everything that follows. You are not alone in your body. You have never been alone. You carry within you a civilization of trillions, and this civilization has profound influence over who you are and how you experience existence. Understanding this is the first step toward understanding yourself as something far more complex, far more interconnected, and far more wondrous than you ever imagined possible. The chemical messengers. Imagine, if you can, a conversation happening at the molecular level. One bacterium releases a chemical signal into the environment. Another bacterium detects that signal and responds. Within microseconds, information is being transmitted. Decisions are being made, behaviors are being coordinated. This is not science fiction. This is happening inside you right now. But the conversation does not stop at bacterial to bacterial communication. The bacteria in your gut are also talking to you. They are sending messages to your brain, and they are doing it through chemistry. The brain is often described as the command center of consciousness. It is where thoughts originate, where emotions are processed, where decisions are made. But the brain does not work in isolation. It works through chemical messengers called neurotransmitters. These are molecules that carry signals from one neuron to another, across the tiny gaps called synapses. Neurotransmitters are what make consciousness possible. They are what allow your brain to think, feel, remember, and desire. And here is where the story becomes extraordinary. Your gut bacteria produce these same neurotransmitters. Consider serotonin. This is perhaps the most famous neurotransmitter, deeply associated with mood, with happiness, with a sense of well-being. When serotonin levels are low, people often experience depression, anxiety, and a general flatness of emotion. When serotonin levels are adequate, people tend to feel more optimistic, more capable, more able to handle the challenges of life. Psychiatric medications like SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, work by increasing the availability of serotonin in the brain. They are among the most prescribed medications in the world. And yet, approximately 90% of the serotonin in your body is not produced by your brain. It is produced by your gut bacteria. This is not a minor detail. This is revolutionary. The bacteria in your microbiome are literally synthesizing the chemical of happiness. They are manufacturing the molecule that makes you feel like life is worth living. When these bacteria are healthy and abundant, they produce adequate serotonin. When they are depleted or imbalanced, serotonin production drops. And when serotonin drops, your mood drops with it. The depression you might have assumed was purely psychological, purely a product of your thoughts and circumstances, might actually have a bacterial origin. Consider dopamine. This is the neurotransmitter of motivation, of reward, of pleasure. It is what drives you to pursue goals, to seek out experiences, to feel satisfaction when you accomplish something. It is the chemical that makes you feel alive and engaged with the world, and your gut bacteria produce this too. Some species of bacteria in your microbiome are capable of synthesizing dopamine or its precursors. When your microbiome is healthy, dopamine production is robust. When your microbiome is compromised, dopamine production suffers. This means that the lack of motivation you feel The difficulty you have getting started on projects, the sense that nothing really excites you anymore might not be a character flaw, it might be bacterial. Then there is GABA, gamma-aminobutyric acid. This is an inhibitory neurotransmitter, which means it calms the nervous system. It reduces anxiety, promotes relaxation, enables sleep. When GABA levels are adequate, you feel calm and grounded. When GABA is deficient, you feel anxious and hypervigilant. Your gut bacteria produce GABA. Some strains of Lactobacillus and Bifidobacterium, two of the most important beneficial bacteria in your microbiome, are prolific GABA producers. This means that the anxiety you experience, the racing thoughts at night, the sense that your nervous system is constantly on high alert, might be a reflection of your bacterial composition. Beyond these three major neurotransmitters, your gut bacteria also produce acetylcholine, which is involved in memory and learning. They produce norepinephrine, which affects attention and arousal. They produce GABA and glutamate, which are central to the balance between excitation and inhibition in the nervous system. They produce short-chain fatty acids like butyrate, which have profound effects on brain function and neuroplasticity. They produce metabolites that influence inflammation throughout your body and brain. The list goes on and on. What makes this even more remarkable is that these bacterial neurotransmitters do not just stay in your gut. They enter your bloodstream. They circulate throughout your body. Some cross the blood-brain barrier, the protective membrane that separates your brain from the rest of your circulatory system. The blood-brain barrier is highly selective. It does not allow most molecules to pass through, but certain bacterial metabolites can cross it. They can enter your brain directly. They can influence your neural function at the most fundamental level. This is not theoretical. This is measurable and observable. Researchers have taken bacterial samples from depressed individuals and from healthy individuals. They have analyzed the neurotransmitter production of these bacteria in laboratory conditions. They have found that bacteria from depressed individuals produce significantly less serotonin, dopamine, and GABA than bacteria from healthy individuals. They have taken these same bacterial samples and transplanted them into laboratory animals. The animals that received bacteria from depressed humans developed depression-like behaviors. The animals that received bacteria from healthy humans remained behaviorally normal. This is not coincidence, this is causation. The implications are staggering. Your mood is not entirely your own. Your motivation is not entirely your own. Your ability to feel calm and relaxed is not entirely your own. These experiences are partially, significantly, profoundly shaped by the chemistry that your bacteria are producing. This does not mean you have no agency. It does not mean your thoughts and beliefs do not matter. But it does mean that you are not operating in isolation. You are part of a chemical partnership. You are in constant dialogue with trillions of beings that are influencing your internal chemistry in real time. When you take an antibiotic to fight an infection, you are not just killing the harmful bacteria, you are also devastating your beneficial bacteria. You are disrupting the production of neurotransmitters. You are altering your brain chemistry. This is why people often report feeling depressed or anxious after a course of antibiotics. This is why your mood might shift after taking medications that damage your microbiome. You are not being weak or oversensitive. You are experiencing a genuine biochemical shift. Your bacteria have been disrupted, and with them your neurochemistry. The question becomes, how do you ensure that your bacteria are producing adequate neurotransmitters? How do you cultivate a microbiome that keeps you feeling happy, motivated, calm, and clear? The answer lies not in understanding the chemistry alone, but in understanding how bacteria and brain communicate. It lies in the physical pathways that connect your gut to your mind. It lies in the extraordinary system that allows your bacteria to whisper their chemistry directly into your consciousness. The gut-brain highway. Between your gut and your brain exists a communication system so sophisticated, so intricate, so elegant, that it rivals the most advanced telecommunications networks humans have ever built. This system operates continuously, without your awareness, without your conscious direction. Information flows in both directions constantly. Your brain sends signals to your gut, influencing digestion, nutrient absorption, and bacterial composition. Your gut sends signals to your brain, influencing mood, cognition, decision-making, and behavior. This bidirectional communication is mediated by multiple pathways, but one pathway stands out as the most direct, most powerful, most crucial. That pathway is the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is the longest nerve in your body. It begins at the base of your brain, in an area called the brainstem. From there, it descends through your neck, into your chest, and into your abdomen. Along the way, it branches out to innervate your heart, your lungs, and your entire digestive system. The name vagus comes from the Latin word for wandering, because this nerve seems to wander throughout your body, touching and influencing so many different organs and systems. But this wandering is not random. It is purposeful. It is a dedicated highway for communication between your brain and your gut. The vagus nerve is not a single wire like a telephone line. It is more like a thick cable containing tens of thousands of individual nerve fibers. Some of these fibers are efferent, meaning they carry signals from your brain down to your gut. These fibers allow your brain to influence digestion, to speed up or slow down your intestinal movements, to increase or decrease the production of digestive enzymes. But approximately 80% of the fibers in the vagus nerve are afferent, meaning they carry signals from your gut up to your brain. This is remarkable. The vagus nerve is predominantly a gut-to-brain communication system. Your gut is talking to your brain far more than your brain is talking to your gut. What is your gut talking about? It is sending information about the chemical environment in your digestive system. It is reporting on what bacteria are present. It is communicating about nutrient absorption. It is signaling about inflammation or the absence of inflammation. It is relaying information about the presence of beneficial bacterial metabolites like butyrate. When your gut bacteria produce serotonin or GABA or dopamine, these molecules do not necessarily need to cross the blood-brain barrier to influence your brain. They can stimulate nerve endings in your gut. These nerve endings transmit signals up the vagus nerve directly into your brain. The message is received, the brain responds. Your consciousness shifts. Consider what happens when you are stressed. Stress is a signal that originates in your brain. Your amygdala, the fear center of your brain, detects a threat. It sends signals throughout your nervous system, triggering the fight or flight response. Your heart rate increases. Your breathing becomes shallow. Your muscles tense. Your digestion slows. Blood is diverted away from your gut and toward your muscles and brain. This is the sympathetic nervous system in action, the accelerator pedal of your nervous system. But here is where it becomes interesting. Your gut bacteria can sense this stress response. They can detect the changes in your gut environment. They can sense the stress hormones that are circulating through your bloodstream and affecting your digestive system. When your gut bacteria detect stress, many of them actually change their behavior. Some produce less of the beneficial metabolites that promote calm and well-being. Some produce more metabolites that are inflammatory. Some reduce the production of neurotransmitters that promote relaxation. The bacterial community shifts in response to your stress. And then through the vagus nerve, through the bloodstream, through multiple interconnected pathways, this shift in bacterial behavior sends signals back to your brain. Your brain receives the message that the gut environment has changed. And this information influences your brain's response to stress. It can amplify the stress response, or it can moderate it, depending on what your bacteria are communicating. This is a feedback loop, a cycle of communication that can either support your well-being or undermine it. If you are stressed, your bacteria respond to that stress by changing their behavior. If your bacteria are not producing adequate neurotransmitters, they send signals that reinforce the stress response in your brain. The stress gets worse. The bacteria become more dysbiotic. The communication becomes more dysregulated. Over time, this cycle can lead to chronic stress, chronic anxiety, chronic depression. The system gets stuck in a loop of mutual reinforcement. But the good news is that this feedback loop can work in the opposite direction as well. If you take steps to improve your microbiome, to increase the abundance of beneficial bacteria, to promote the production of calming neurotransmitters, your gut sends signals up the vagus nerve that calm your brain. Your brain receives information that the gut environment is healthy and balanced. This promotes a parasympathetic response, the relaxation response. Your nervous system downshifts. Your stress hormones decrease, your heart rate slows, your digestion improves. And as your stress decreases, your bacteria thrive even more. The beneficial bacteria flourish, the production of neurotransmitters increases. The cycle becomes positive instead of negative. The vagus nerve is sometimes called the wandering nerve, but it might be more accurate to call it the understanding nerve. It is the nerve through which your brain and gut come to understand each other. It is the pathway through which they negotiate, collaborate, and coordinate their activities. When the vagus nerve is healthy and the communication flowing through it is robust, your brain and gut work in harmony. When the vagus nerve is compromised or the communication is disrupted, discord develops. You feel anxious without knowing why. You feel depressed without a clear cause. You feel disconnected from your own body. Scientists have discovered that people with depression often have reduced vagal tone, a measure of how well the vagus nerve is functioning. They have discovered that people with anxiety disorders have similar patterns of vagal dysfunction. They have found that practices that stimulate the vagus nerve, like slow, deep breathing, meditation, and certain types of exercise, can improve mood and reduce anxiety. And they have found that interventions that improve the microbiome, that increase the abundance of beneficial bacteria, can enhance vagal tone and improve mental health. The vagus nerve is not just a communication pathway. It is a therapeutic target. It is a way to heal both the gut and the brain simultaneously. When you take a deep breath, you are stimulating your vagus nerve. When you practice meditation, you are activating the parasympathetic nervous system, the system mediated by the vagus nerve. When you move your body gently, you are promoting vagal tone. And when you eat foods that feed your beneficial bacteria, when you take probiotics, when you reduce stress and get adequate sleep, you are supporting the health of your microbiome, which in turn supports the health of your vagus nerve, which in turn supports the health of your brain. Everything is connected. Everything influences everything else. The highway between your gut and your brain is not a one-way street. It is a living, dynamic, constantly evolving system of communication. When bacteria whisper sadness, depression is a peculiar state of being. It is not sadness, though sadness is often present. It is not laziness, though motivation is absent. It is not weakness, though strength feels impossible to summon. Depression is a state in which the world loses its color, its texture, its meaning. The future appears bleak, not because circumstances are objectively hopeless, but because the brain chemistry that allows you to experience hope, to experience motivation, to experience the pleasure of existence, has been disrupted. And increasingly, we understand that this disruption is not only psychological or circumstantial, it is biochemical, it is bacterial. When scientists study the microbiome of depressed individuals, they consistently find a pattern. The bacterial diversity is reduced. The abundance of beneficial bacteria like lactobacillus and bifidobacterium is diminished. The production of short-chain fatty acids, particularly butyrate, is decreased. The production of neurotransmitters is compromised. And most importantly, there is dysbiosis, an imbalance in the bacterial community in which harmful or less beneficial bacteria are overrepresented, while beneficial bacteria are underrepresented. This is not correlation. This is not coincidence. This is a direct relationship between bacterial composition and depressive symptoms. Consider what happens when beneficial bacteria are depleted. These bacteria are the primary producers of GABA, the calming neurotransmitter. When they are absent or reduced, GABA production drops. The brain becomes less able to achieve a state of calm. Anxiety increases. Sleep becomes difficult. The nervous system remains in a state of heightened alert. Over time, this chronic low-level stress wears down the brain's capacity for resilience. The brain becomes more vulnerable to depression, and as depression develops, the stress hormone cortisol increases. Cortisol further damages the beneficial bacteria. The cycle deepens. The relationship between dysbiosis and depression is not one-directional. Depression itself promotes dysbiosis. When you are depressed, your dietary choices often change. You might crave sugar, refined carbohydrates, and processed foods. These foods feed the harmful bacteria and starve the beneficial bacteria. Your stress hormone levels increase, and this stress affects your gut bacteria directly, promoting dysbiosis. Your sleep quality deteriorates, and poor sleep is one of the strongest predictors of dysbiosis. Your motivation to take care of yourself decreases, and you might neglect exercise, social connection, and other activities that support microbial health. The depression creates conditions that worsen dysbiosis, which in turn worsens the depression. You are trapped in a cycle. But here is where understanding becomes liberating. If depression is, in part, a bacterial issue, then it is also a bacterial solution. This does not mean that depression can be solved simply by taking probiotics or eating fermented foods. Depression is multifactorial. It involves genetics, life circumstances, trauma, brain chemistry, and many other factors. But it does mean that the microbiome is a significant and often overlooked factor. It means that supporting your microbiome is supporting your mental health. It means that healing your gut can contribute to healing your mind. When researchers have studied the effects of specific probiotic strains on depression, they have found remarkable results. Certain strains of lactobacillus and bifidobacterium have been shown to reduce depressive symptoms in clinical trials. People taking these probiotics report improvements in mood, energy, and motivation. Their sleep improves, their anxiety decreases. The effect is not instantaneous. It takes time for the bacterial population to shift, for neurotransmitter production to increase, for the brain to adjust to the new chemical environment. But the effect is real and measurable. The mechanism is elegant. When you introduce beneficial bacteria through diet or supplementation, these bacteria begin to colonize your gut. They compete with harmful bacteria for resources and space. Over time, if conditions are favorable, they become established. Once established, they begin to produce neurotransmitters and other beneficial metabolites. These molecules signal to your brain through the vagus nerve and through the bloodstream. Your brain receives information that the gut environment is healthy. This promotes a parasympathetic response. Your stress hormones decrease, your mood improves, your sense of possibility expands. What is particularly striking is that this process is not dependent on your conscious belief or effort. You do not need to believe that probiotics work for them to work. Your brain does not need to believe that your gut bacteria are communicating with it for that communication to occur. The biology operates independently of your thoughts and beliefs. This is both humbling and liberating. It means that even if you struggle with negative thinking patterns, even if you have difficulty believing that things can improve, your microbiome can still be healing you at the biochemical level. Your bacteria are working for you, regardless of your conscious thoughts. This also means that depression is not a moral failing. You are not depressed because you are weak or broken or fundamentally flawed. You might be depressed because your microbiome is imbalanced. You might be depressed because the bacteria that produce the chemicals of well-being have been depleted. You might be depressed because your gut environment has been damaged by antibiotics, by a poor diet, by chronic stress, by circumstances beyond your control. Understanding this shifts the entire frame. Depression becomes not a character defect, but a symptom that has a cause that can be addressed. The sadness that depression whispers is real. The flatness, the emptiness, the sense that nothing matters and nothing will ever get better, these are real experiences. They are not illusions, but they are also not the final truth about you or your life. They are messages from a disrupted system. Your bacteria are not producing adequate neurotransmitters. Your gut is not communicating effectively with your brain. Your nervous system is stuck in a dysregulated state. And all of this is addressable. All of this can be shifted. When you understand that depression might be, in part, a bacterial issue, you open the door to healing. You move from a place of self-blame to a place of biological understanding. And from that place, real change becomes possible. The anxiety frequency. Anxiety operates at a different frequency than depression. Where depression is a flatness, an absence of feeling, anxiety is an excess of feeling. Where depression whispers resignation, anxiety shouts alarm. The anxious brain is constantly scanning for threat. It is hypervigilant. It is ready to react to danger at any moment. And while some anxiety is adaptive, some is necessary and appropriate, chronic anxiety is exhausting. It is like living with a smoke alarm that goes off constantly, even when there is no fire. Your nervous system is stuck in a state of threat detection. And increasingly, we understand that this state is intimately connected to your microbiome. The connection between anxiety and dysbiosis is well established in the scientific literature. People with anxiety disorders consistently show altered bacterial compositions compared to healthy controls. They have reduced bacterial diversity. They have lower levels of beneficial bacteria. They have higher levels of bacteria that produce inflammatory metabolites. And most importantly, they have disrupted communication between their gut and their brain. The vagus nerve, which should be carrying calming signals from the gut to the brain, is instead carrying signals of dysregulation and imbalance. To understand how dysbiosis leads to anxiety, we need to understand the role of inflammation. When your microbiome is imbalanced, the intestinal barrier becomes compromised. The cells that line your intestines are normally tightly connected, forming a barrier that prevents harmful substances from entering your bloodstream. But dysbiosis weakens these connections. The barrier becomes permeable. Bacterial lipopolysaccharides, components of bacterial cell walls, leak into your bloodstream. Your immune system detects these foreign substances and mounts an inflammatory response. Inflammatory cytokines, signaling molecules that promote inflammation, flood your system. This inflammation is not localized to your gut. It travels throughout your body. It crosses the blood-brain barrier. It enters your brain. Your brain detects this inflammatory state and interprets it as a sign of threat. Your amygdala, your brain's threat detection center, becomes hyperactive. Your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, the system that controls your stress hormones, becomes dysregulated. Cortisol and adrenaline flood your system. Your heart rate increases. Your breathing becomes shallow, your muscles tense. You feel anxious. You feel like something is wrong, even if objectively nothing is wrong. And indeed, something is wrong. Your immune system is responding to a threat detected by your microbiome. This is crucial to understand. The anxiety you feel might not be a psychological problem. It might be a biological response to inflammation caused by dysbiosis. Your body is not overreacting. It is responding appropriately to the signals it is receiving. The problem is not your psychological fragility. The problem is that your microbiome is not producing the signals of safety and health that your brain needs to feel calm and grounded. Beneficial bacteria like lactobacillus and bifidobacterium produce short-chain fatty acids, particularly butyrate. Butyrate has multiple functions in the body, but one of its most important functions is to strengthen the intestinal barrier. It helps maintain the tight junctions between intestinal cells, preventing the leakage of bacterial components into the bloodstream. When your microbiome is healthy and producing adequate butyrate, your intestinal barrier is strong and intact. Harmful substances stay out of your bloodstream. Your immune system does not detect a threat. Your brain receives signals that everything is fine. You feel calm and secure. But when dysbiosis develops, butyrate production decreases. The intestinal barrier weakens. Bacterial components leak into your bloodstream. Inflammation increases. Your immune system becomes activated. Your brain detects threat, and anxiety develops. The anxiety is not irrational. It is not a sign of psychological weakness. It is a rational response to a genuine biological problem. Your body is communicating that something needs to change. The anxiety that dysbiosis creates is often accompanied by a particular type of worry. People report intrusive thoughts, racing thoughts, a sense that their mind cannot settle. They might experience panic attacks, sudden surges of intense fear that seem to come from nowhere. They might develop phobias or obsessive patterns of thinking. These are all consistent with a brain that is receiving signals of threat from a dysbiotic microbiome. The brain is stuck in threat detection mode because the gut is constantly signaling danger. What is particularly insidious about this process is that anxiety itself promotes dysbiosis. When you are anxious, your stress hormones increase. These hormones directly affect your gut bacteria. They promote the growth of harmful bacteria and inhibit the growth of beneficial bacteria. Your anxiety creates conditions that worsen dysbiosis. The dysbiosis sends more inflammatory signals to your brain. Your brain becomes more anxious. The cycle deepens. You find yourself trapped in an escalating spiral of anxiety and dysbiosis, each one feeding the other. Breaking this cycle requires addressing both the anxiety and the dysbiosis simultaneously. Psychological interventions like cognitive behavioral therapy can help you develop new ways of thinking about and responding to anxiety. But if you do not address the underlying dysbiosis, the anxiety will likely persist or return. Similarly, interventions that promote microbiome health, like dietary changes and probiotics, can reduce the inflammatory signals coming from your gut. But if you do not also address the anxiety through psychological work or other means, the anxiety might perpetuate the dysbiosis through stress hormones. The most effective approach is one that addresses the entire system. Reduce your stress through meditation, yoga, or other relaxation practices. This reduces stress hormones and supports microbiome health. Eat foods that feed beneficial bacteria, like fiber-rich vegetables and fermented foods. This promotes the growth of bacteria that produce butyrate and other anti-inflammatory metabolites. Move your body regularly. Exercise promotes the growth of beneficial bacteria. Get adequate sleep. Sleep is crucial for both immune function and microbiome health. Consider probiotics or other interventions specifically designed to support microbiome health. And if the anxiety is severe, seek professional mental health support. The key insight is that anxiety is not something you are failing to overcome through willpower alone. It is not a character flaw or a sign of weakness. It is a symptom of dysbiosis, a sign that your microbiome is imbalanced and your gut-brain communication is disrupted. Understanding this is the first step toward healing. Once you recognize that your anxiety might be bacterial in origin, you can address it at the source. You can support your microbiome. You can restore the bacterial populations that produce the neurotransmitters and metabolites your brain needs to feel calm. You can rebuild the communication between your gut and your brain. And as you do, the anxiety frequency gradually shifts. The alarm bells stop ringing so constantly. Your nervous system finds its way back to a state of relative calm. Your mood is not your own. The experience of joy is one of the most precious aspects of being human. The moment when something makes you smile, when laughter bubbles up from deep within, when you feel a sense of contentment and well-being, these moments make life worth living. They are the texture of happiness, and yet most of us take these experiences for granted. We assume that joy is something we generate ourselves, something that comes from our thoughts or our circumstances. We do not usually stop to consider that joy might be produced by bacteria, but the science is clear. Your happiness is not entirely your own. It is a collaborative production, co-authored by your brain and your microbiome. Happiness is not a single emotion. It is a constellation of experiences. There is the pleasure you feel when you eat something delicious. There is the contentment you feel when you are with people you love. There is the satisfaction you feel when you accomplish something difficult. There is the peace you feel in moments of stillness and quiet. There is the excitement you feel when something unexpected and wonderful happens. Each of these experiences involves different neurochemistry, different brain regions, different neurotransmitters, and in each case your bacteria are involved. The pleasure of eating something delicious involves dopamine, the reward neurotransmitter. Your gut bacteria produce dopamine. When you eat food, your bacteria are stimulated. They produce dopamine. This dopamine signals to your brain that something good has happened. Your brain interprets this signal as pleasure. You feel happy. The food tastes good not just because of its flavor, but because your bacteria are producing the neurotransmitter that makes you feel good about eating it. When your microbiome is healthy, this process works smoothly. When your microbiome is dysbiotic, dopamine production is compromised. Food tastes less satisfying. Nothing seems pleasurable. You feel anhedonia, the inability to experience pleasure. The contentment you feel when you are with people you love involves multiple neurotransmitters and brain systems. It involves oxytocin, sometimes called the bonding hormone. It involves serotonin, the neurotransmitter of well-being. It involves dopamine, the neurotransmitter of reward. And your bacteria produce or modulate all of these. When your microbiome is healthy, you feel drawn towards social connection. You feel able to enjoy the company of others. You feel like connecting with people is rewarding. When your microbiome is dysbiotic, you might feel isolated even in the presence of others. You might lack the neurochemistry that makes social connection feel rewarding. The satisfaction you feel when you accomplish something difficult involves a complex interplay of neurotransmitters and brain systems. It involves a sense of mastery and competence. It involves the release of endorphins, your brain's natural opioids, which create a sense of well-being. It involves dopamine, which signals that you have achieved something worthwhile. When your microbiome is healthy, you feel capable. You feel like you can face challenges and overcome them. When your microbiome is dysbiotic, challenges feel overwhelming. Your sense of agency and competence erodes. The peace you feel in moments of stillness and quiet involves a downregulation of your sympathetic nervous system and an upregulation of your parasympathetic nervous system. It involves the production of GABA and other inhibitory neurotransmitters that calm your nervous system. It involves a state of relative freedom from stress hormones. When your microbiome is healthy, you can access this state of peace relatively easily. You can settle into stillness. You can feel the quiet contentment of simply being. When your microbiome is dysbiotic, your nervous system is stuck in a state of relative activation. Stillness feels uncomfortable. Your mind races. You cannot access the peace that is available in moments of quiet. What is remarkable is that these different types of happiness are not independent. They are interconnected. When your microbiome is healthy and producing adequate levels of all the neurotransmitters and metabolites that support well-being, you experience a general elevation of mood. You feel happier across the board. Small pleasures feel more pleasurable. Social connection feels more rewarding. Challenges feel more manageable. Stillness feels more peaceful. It is not that you are experiencing different emotions. It is that your baseline emotional state has shifted upward. The entire tone of your consciousness has changed. Conversely, when your microbiome is dysbiotic, your baseline emotional state shifts downward. This is not depression necessarily. You are not experiencing the flatness and emptiness of clinical depression, but you are experiencing a general dampening of positive emotion. Things that normally bring you joy feel less joyful. You feel like you are going through life in a kind of gray haze. You are not sad, but you are not really happy either. You are just kind of existing. This is what dysbiosis does to your emotional life. The implications of this are profound. If your happiness is, in part, a product of your microbiome, then cultivating happiness means cultivating a healthy microbiome. It means making choices that support the bacteria that produce the neurotransmitters and metabolites of well-being. It means eating foods that feed beneficial bacteria. It means reducing stress, which disrupts your microbiome. It means getting adequate sleep, which supports microbiome health. It means moving your body, which promotes the growth of beneficial bacteria. It means reducing your exposure to antibiotics and other substances that damage your microbiome. But here is where it gets even more interesting. The choices that support your microbiome are often the same choices that support your happiness directly through other mechanisms. Eating whole foods, fruits, vegetables, and fermented foods does not just support your microbiome. It also provides your brain with the nutrients it needs to function optimally. Getting adequate sleep does not just support your microbiome. It also allows your brain to consolidate memories and process emotions. Moving your body does not just promote the growth of beneficial bacteria. It also releases endorphins and promotes the growth of new neurons in your brain. Reducing stress does not just support your microbiome. It also directly reduces stress hormones and promotes a sense of well-being. So the path to happiness is not a path of deprivation or sacrifice. It is not a path of forcing yourself to do things you do not want to do. It is a path of alignment. It is a path of making choices that support both your mind and your microbiome. When you eat foods that feed your beneficial bacteria, you are also nourishing your brain. When you reduce stress, you are both calming your nervous system and supporting your microbiome. When you move your body, you are both releasing endorphins and promoting bacterial health. Everything works together. Everything supports everything else. This is the secret to sustainable happiness. It is not about chasing pleasure or trying to force yourself to feel good. It is about creating the conditions both internal and external, that allow happiness to emerge naturally. It is about supporting your microbiome so that it can support your mood. It is about recognizing that you are not an isolated consciousness trying to think your way to happiness. You are an ecosystem. And when your ecosystem is healthy, happiness emerges as a natural consequence. So food is bacterial language. Every time you eat, you are not just feeding yourself, you are having a conversation with your bacteria. You are sending them messages through the food you consume. You are telling them what you value, what you prioritize, what you want to thrive in your internal ecosystem. The food you eat is literally shaping which bacteria live and which bacteria die. It is determining which bacterial species will flourish and which will diminish. It is programming your microbiome. And through your microbiome, it is programming your brain chemistry, your mood, your cognition, your behavior. Consider what happens when you eat a meal rich in fiber. Fiber is a type of carbohydrate that your own digestive enzymes cannot break down. It passes through your small intestine intact and reaches your colon, where your bacteria live. When your bacteria encounter fiber, they ferment it. This fermentation process produces short-chain fatty acids, particularly butyrate. Butyrate is one of the most important metabolites your bacteria produce. It strengthens your intestinal barrier. It reduces inflammation. It feeds the cells of your colon. It crosses the blood-brain barrier and promotes neuroplasticity and brain health. It reduces anxiety and promotes a sense of calm. When you eat vegetables, fruits, legumes, and whole grains, you are feeding your beneficial bacteria. You are sending them a message that says, thrive. You are creating an environment in which beneficial bacteria can proliferate. The bacteria that feed on fiber are the same bacteria that produce GABA, that produce butyrate, that produce the metabolites that promote mental health and well-being. When you eat plenty of fiber, these bacteria flourish. They produce abundant neurotransmitters and metabolites. Your brain receives signals of well-being. Your mood improves, your anxiety decreases, your sleep improves. But consider what happens when you eat a meal rich in refined carbohydrates and sugar. Sugar is rapidly absorbed in your small intestine. It does not reach your colon. It does not feed your beneficial bacteria. Instead, the refined carbohydrates and sugar feed harmful bacteria, bacteria that thrive on simple sugars and do not produce beneficial metabolites. These bacteria proliferate. They crowd out the beneficial bacteria. They produce inflammatory metabolites. They compromise your intestinal barrier. They send inflammatory signals to your brain. Your brain receives signals that something is wrong. Your anxiety increases. Your mood decreases. You feel worse. This is not about morality or willpower. It is not about being good or bad. It is about understanding that food is communication. Every bite you take is a message to your bacteria, and your bacteria are listening. They are responding. They are adjusting their behavior based on the information you are sending them. When you eat foods that feed beneficial bacteria, you are voting for a microbiome that supports your mental health. When you eat foods that feed harmful bacteria, you are voting for a microbiome that undermines your mental health. Fermented foods are particularly powerful messages to send to your bacteria. When you eat yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, miso, or other fermented foods, you are consuming bacteria directly. These are live bacteria that have been cultivated through fermentation. When you consume them, some of them survive your digestive system and colonize your colon. They add to your bacterial diversity. They introduce strains that produce neurotransmitters and beneficial metabolites. They help restore balance to a dysbiotic microbiome. Fermented foods are not just food. They are medicine. They are a conversation with your bacteria in which you are saying, I want you to be healthy. I want you to thrive. Prebiotic foods are another powerful tool. Prebiotics are compounds that your own digestive enzymes cannot break down, but that your beneficial bacteria can ferment. Garlic, onions, asparagus, bananas, and many other foods contain prebiotics. When you eat these foods, you are sending a specific message to your bacteria. You are saying, I want the bacteria that can ferment these compounds to thrive. You are creating conditions that favor beneficial bacteria over harmful bacteria. You are programming your microbiome to support your health. The food industry has spent decades creating foods that are highly palatable, but nutritionally poor. These foods are engineered to trigger dopamine release in your brain. They are designed to make you want more. They are designed to be addictive. But from a microbiome perspective, they are catastrophic. They feed harmful bacteria. They starve beneficial bacteria. They promote dysbiosis. They lead to inflammation and poor mental health. And the irony is that while these foods trigger dopamine release in the short term, they actually undermine the long-term dopamine production that comes from a healthy microbiome. You get a quick hit of pleasure, but you sacrifice the sustained well-being that comes from a healthy gut-brain axis. Understanding food as bacterial language allows you to make choices from a place of empowerment rather than deprivation. You are not denying yourself pleasure or being restrictive. You are making informed choices about what kind of microbiome you want to cultivate. You are choosing to feed the bacteria that support your mental health. You are choosing to promote a microbiome that produces the neurotransmitters and metabolites that make you feel good. You are choosing to invest in your long-term well-being. This does not mean you can never eat foods that are not optimal for your microbiome. It means you understand the consequences of those choices. It means you can make them consciously, knowing what you are doing. You can enjoy a dessert or processed food occasionally, knowing that you are temporarily feeding your harmful bacteria, knowing that you might feel slightly worse for a day or two, knowing that you will then return to feeding your beneficial bacteria. The key is understanding the language you are speaking to your bacteria through your food choices. Once you understand the language, you can speak it deliberately and consciously. The sleep architects. Sleep is one of the most profound mysteries of consciousness. Every night, for roughly a third of your life, you surrender consciousness. You close your eyes and drift into a state that is neither waking nor death, neither presence nor absence. In this state, something extraordinary happens. Your brain processes the day's experiences. It consolidates memories. It clears out metabolic waste products. It heals itself. Your body repairs tissues, restores energy reserves, and maintains the delicate balance of countless physiological processes. Sleep is not a luxury. It is a biological necessity, and your bacteria are the architects of your sleep. The regulation of sleep is controlled by your circadian rhythm, your internal clock. This clock is set by light exposure, by physical activity, by meal timing, and by many other factors. But one of the most important factors, one that is often overlooked, is your microbiome. Your bacteria have their own rhythms. They have their own circadian patterns. They produce different metabolites at different times of the day. And these metabolites influence your circadian rhythm and your ability to sleep. Melatonin is the hormone that regulates sleep. It is produced by your pineal gland in your brain in response to darkness. As melatonin levels rise in the evening, you feel sleepy. You drift off to sleep. Throughout the night, melatonin levels remain high, supporting sleep. As dawn approaches and light increases, melatonin levels drop. You wake up. This is the normal circadian pattern. But here is what is remarkable. Approximately 90% of the melatonin in your body is not produced by your pineal gland. It is produced by your bacteria. Your gut bacteria produce melatonin as a byproduct of their metabolism. When your microbiome is healthy, melatonin production is robust. Melatonin enters your bloodstream. It circulates throughout your body. It reaches your brain. It reinforces your natural circadian rhythm. It makes it easy for you to fall asleep and stay asleep. But when your microbiome is dysbiotic, melatonin production is compromised. Your circadian rhythm becomes dysregulated. You have difficulty falling asleep. You wake up frequently during the night. Your sleep is fragmented and unsatisfying. The bacteria that produce melatonin are particularly sensitive to disruption. Antibiotics, stress, poor diet, and circadian misalignment all damage these bacteria. When they are damaged, melatonin production drops. And when melatonin production drops, sleep becomes difficult. You lie awake at night, your mind racing, your body unable to settle into sleep. You might turn to sleep medications, which can further disrupt your microbiome. You enter a cycle in which poor sleep leads to dysbiosis, which leads to even worse sleep. But there is more to the bacterial control of sleep than just melatonin production. Your bacteria also produce GABA, the calming neurotransmitter. GABA is crucial for transitioning into sleep. When GABA levels are adequate, your nervous system can downshift, your mind can quiet, your body can relax. But when GABA production is compromised due to dysbiosis, your nervous system remains in a state of activation. You cannot achieve the neurological state necessary for sleep. You lie awake, restless and frustrated. Your bacteria also produce short-chain fatty acids like butyrate, which have been shown to improve sleep quality. They regulate your circadian rhythm. They promote the growth of bacteria that produce melatonin and GABA. When your microbiome is producing adequate amounts of these metabolites, sleep comes naturally. Your body knows how to sleep. Your mind knows how to quiet. But when these metabolites are deficient, sleep becomes a struggle. What is particularly insidious about dysbiosis-induced sleep problems is that sleep deprivation itself promotes dysbiosis. When you do not get adequate sleep, your stress hormones increase. These stress hormones damage your microbiome, promoting the growth of harmful bacteria and inhibiting the growth of beneficial bacteria. Your dysbiosis worsens. Your sleep becomes even worse. You find yourself trapped in a cycle in which poor sleep and dysbiosis feed each other. The cycle perpetuates itself. Breaking this cycle requires addressing the microbiome directly, eating foods that feed beneficial bacteria, taking probiotics, reducing stress, and getting whatever sleep you can all help support microbiome health. As your microbiome begins to heal, melatonin and GABA production increase. Your circadian rhythm becomes more regular. Your sleep improves. As your sleep improves, your stress decreases. Your microbiome improves further. The cycle reverses. Sleep becomes easier. There is something beautiful about recognizing that your bacteria are working to help you sleep. Even when sleep feels difficult and elusive, your bacteria are doing their best to support you. They are producing melatonin. They are producing GABA. They are trying to regulate your circadian rhythm. They are working for you, even when you are not aware of it. When you support your microbiome through diet, stress reduction, and other means, you are supporting these bacterial architects. You are giving them the resources they need to do their job. And in return, they give you the gift of restorative sleep. Decision-making from below you. Believe that your decisions are made by your conscious mind. You believe that you think about your options, weigh the pros and cons, and consciously choose a course of action. This is the narrative you tell yourself. But the science suggests that something far more complex is happening. Your decisions are not made solely by your conscious mind. They are influenced, often profoundly, by signals coming from your gut. Your bacteria are involved in your decision-making process. They are shaping your choices. They are influencing the direction of your life. This might sound like hyperbole, but it is grounded in neuroscience. Your gut has an extensive nervous system, sometimes called the enteric nervous system or the second brain. This nervous system contains roughly as many neurons as your spinal cord. It is capable of independent processing and decision-making. It is not just receiving orders from your brain. It is sending information to your brain. It is influencing your thoughts and decisions, and your bacteria are influencing this gut nervous system. Consider the experience of a gut feeling. You meet someone, and you have an immediate sense that something is off, even though you cannot articulate why. Or you consider a decision and you feel a sense of rightness or wrongness in your gut, even before your conscious mind has fully analyzed the situation. These gut feelings are not mystical or supernatural. They are your enteric nervous system communicating with your brain. Your gut is processing information and sending signals that influence your conscious thoughts. And your bacteria are influencing what signals your gut sends. When your microbiome is healthy, the signals your gut sends are generally accurate and helpful. Your gut feeling aligns with conscious analysis. You make good decisions. When your microbiome is dysbiotic, the signals your gut sends are often dysregulated. You might have a gut feeling that is not aligned with reality. You might feel drawn toward things that are not good for you. You might avoid things that would be beneficial. Your decision-making becomes compromised. Your bacteria also influence your food preferences and cravings. Different bacteria have different metabolic needs. Some bacteria thrive on sugar and refined carbohydrates. Other bacteria thrive on fiber and complex carbohydrates. When sugar-loving bacteria dominate your microbiome, they send signals to your brain that make you crave sugar. You feel an overwhelming desire for sweets. You feel like you cannot resist. And indeed, your bacteria are literally influencing your brain chemistry to make you want the foods that feed them. Your cravings are not a failure of willpower. They are a signal from your bacteria. This is not to say that you have no agency in your decisions. You do. But your agency operates within a context created by your microbiome. Your bacteria set the parameters within which your choices are made. When your bacteria are healthy, they set parameters that support your well-being. They make you crave foods that are good for you. They make you feel drawn toward behaviors that support your health. They influence your mood and motivation in ways that support your flourishing. But when your bacteria are dysbiotic, they set parameters that undermine your well-being. They make you crave foods that damage your health. They make you feel drawn toward behaviors that harm you. They influence your mood and motivation in ways that create suffering. Understanding this shifts your relationship to your own choices. You are not a failure because you struggle with cravings or find certain decisions difficult. You are experiencing the influence of your microbiome. Your bacteria are making it difficult for you to choose well. This is not your fault, but it is also not hopeless. By supporting your microbiome, by cultivating a healthy bacterial community, you can change the parameters within which your decisions are made. You can make it easier for yourself to choose what is good for you. This is why dietary change can be so difficult. When you are dysbiotic, your bacteria are sending signals that make you want to continue eating the foods that feed them. You try to eat better, but you are fighting against the signals your own bacteria are sending. It feels like fighting against yourself, and in a sense, you are. You are fighting against the bacterial community that has been shaped by your past dietary choices. But as you persist in eating foods that feed beneficial bacteria, those bacteria begin to multiply. Over time, they become dominant. The signals your bacteria send begin to change. Your cravings shift. What once felt like an overwhelming desire for sugar gradually becomes less intense. Foods that you never thought you would enjoy start to taste good. Your preferences shift. Your choices become easier. This is the power of understanding your decisions as partially bacterial. It is not about willpower or self-discipline. It is about creating the conditions that make good choices easier. It is about cultivating a microbiome that wants what is good for you. When your bacteria want what is good for you, your decisions align naturally. You do not have to fight yourself. You do not have to rely on willpower. Your bacteria are on your side. They are supporting you. They are making it easy for you to choose well. Immunity's invisible teachers. Your immune system is one of the most sophisticated defense mechanisms in the natural world. It is constantly patrolling your body, identifying threats, and mounting responses to protect you from infection and disease. But your immune system is not born knowing how to do this. It is not pre-programmed with perfect knowledge of which organisms are dangerous and which are harmless. Your immune system learns, and your bacteria are its primary teachers. When you are born, your immune system is largely naive. It has limited experience with the microbial world. As you grow and encounter bacteria, viruses, and other microorganisms, your immune system learns. It learns to recognize pathogens and mount appropriate responses. It learns to tolerate harmless bacteria and to distinguish them from dangerous ones. It learns to regulate its own responses so that it is protective without being destructive. And the primary way your immune system learns is through interaction with your microbiome. Your gut bacteria are in constant communication with your immune system. They send signals that educate your immune cells. They teach your immune system which bacteria are safe and which are dangerous. They teach your immune system how to mount appropriate responses. They teach your immune system when to be aggressive and when to be tolerant. This education is crucial. Without it, your immune system would either be overly aggressive, attacking harmless substances and causing autoimmune disease, or insufficiently aggressive, failing to defend against genuine threats. When your microbiome is healthy and diverse, your immune system is well educated. It knows how to distinguish between pathogens and harmless bacteria. It knows how to mount appropriate responses. It is protective without being destructive. When your microbiome is dysbiotic, your immune system is poorly educated. It might overreact to harmless substances, leading to allergies and autoimmune disease, or it might underreact to genuine threats, leaving you vulnerable to infection. The relationship between microbiome diversity and immune health is striking. People with high microbiome diversity tend to have strong, well-regulated immune systems. People with low microbiome diversity tend to have immune dysfunction. They are more susceptible to infections. They have higher rates of autoimmune disease. They have higher rates of allergies. The diversity of your bacteria directly correlates with the competence of your immune system. One of the most important functions of your bacteria is to maintain the integrity of your intestinal barrier. Your intestines are lined with a single layer of cells. These cells are held together by tight junctions, specialized protein structures that prevent substances from passing between cells. Your bacteria help maintain these tight junctions. They produce metabolites like butyrate that strengthen the barrier. When your microbiome is healthy, your intestinal barrier is strong and intact. Harmful substances cannot pass through. Your immune system does not have to respond to bacterial components leaking into your bloodstream. But when your microbiome is dysbiotic, butyrate production decreases. The tight junctions weaken. The intestinal barrier becomes permeable, a condition sometimes called leaky gut. Bacterial components leak into your bloodstream. Your immune system detects these foreign substances and mounts an inflammatory response. This inflammation can spread throughout your body. It can trigger autoimmune responses. It can cause joint pain, skin problems, fatigue, and countless other symptoms. The dysbiotic microbiome is not just failing to educate your immune system. It is actively confusing and misdirecting your immune system. Antibiotic use is one of the primary causes of dysbiosis, and this has profound implications for immune function. When you take antibiotics, you are not just killing the infection you are trying to treat. You are also killing much of your beneficial microbiota. Your immune system loses its primary educators. The tight junctions of your intestinal barrier weaken. Inflammation increases. Your immune system becomes dysregulated. This is why people often get sick more frequently after a course of antibiotics. Their microbiome has been disrupted, and their immune system has been left without its primary teachers. The solution is to restore your microbiome by eating foods that feed beneficial bacteria, by taking probiotics, by reducing stress and getting adequate sleep. You are supporting your microbiome. As your microbiome recovers, it educates your immune system. The tight junctions of your intestinal barrier strengthen. Inflammation decreases. Your immune system becomes better regulated. You become more resistant to infection. Your rates of autoimmune disease and allergies decrease. There is something profound about recognizing that your immunity is not just your own. It is a collaborative creation between your immune system and your bacteria. Your bacteria are teaching your immune cells how to be effective. Your immune system is learning from your bacteria. Together, they create a protective shield that keeps you healthy. When you support your microbiome, you are supporting this protective partnership. You are giving your bacteria the resources they need to educate your immune system. You are investing in your long-term health and resilience. The broken dialogue. There is a conversation happening in your gut. It is a conversation between you and your bacteria, between your immune system and your bacteria, between your brain and your bacteria. It is a conversation that has been evolving for hundreds of thousands of years. But in recent decades, this conversation has been disrupted. The dialogue has been broken, and the consequences are profound. The primary culprit is antibiotics. Antibiotics are miraculous drugs. They have saved countless lives. They have prevented deaths from infections that would have been fatal before their discovery. But antibiotics are also profoundly disruptive to the microbiome. When you take an antibiotic, it does not discriminate between harmful bacteria and beneficial bacteria. It kills both. A course of antibiotics can reduce your bacterial diversity by up to 90%. It can take months or even years for your microbiome to fully recover. And if you take multiple courses of antibiotics, the recovery becomes increasingly difficult. Your microbiome becomes progressively more dysbiotic. The impact of this disruption is staggering. People who have taken antibiotics have increased rates of depression, anxiety, and other mental health conditions. They have increased rates of autoimmune disease. They have increased rates of allergies. They have increased rates of obesity and metabolic disease. They have increased rates of digestive problems. The antibiotic-induced dysbiosis sets off a cascade of health problems that can persist for years or even a lifetime. But antibiotics are not the only culprit. Modern diet is deeply damaging to the microbiome. The standard American diet is high in processed foods, refined carbohydrates, and sugar. These foods feed harmful bacteria and starve beneficial bacteria. They promote dysbiosis. They reduce bacterial diversity. The standard American diet is essentially a prescription for microbiome destruction. People who eat a standard American diet have significantly lower microbiome diversity than people who eat a traditional diet rich in whole foods and fermented foods. Stress is another major disruptor of the microbiome. When you are stressed, your stress hormones increase. These hormones directly affect your bacteria. They promote the growth of harmful bacteria and inhibit the growth of beneficial bacteria. Chronic stress leads to chronic dysbiosis. Your bacteria become less diverse. They produce fewer beneficial metabolites. Your mental health deteriorates. Your physical health deteriorates. The dysbiosis worsens the stress response. The cycle deepens. Sleep deprivation is another disruptor. When you do not get adequate sleep, your circadian rhythm becomes dysregulated. Your bacteria are sensitive to circadian disruption. When your circadian rhythm is disrupted, your bacterial rhythm becomes disrupted. The bacteria that produce melatonin and GABA become less active. Your microbiome becomes dysbiotic. Your sleep becomes worse. The cycle perpetuates. Excessive hygiene is another subtle but significant disruptor. In developed countries, we have become obsessed with cleanliness and sterilization. We wash our hands constantly. We use antibacterial soaps. We sanitize our environments. In doing so, we reduce our exposure to the diverse microorganisms that our immune system needs to learn from. We reduce the opportunities for our microbiome to be seeded with beneficial bacteria from our environment. Our microbiomes become less diverse. Our immune systems become less well-educated. We become more susceptible to allergies and autoimmune disease. The consequence of all of this disruption is that we are living in a state of dysbiosis epidemic. The microbiomes of people in developed countries are significantly less diverse than the microbiomes of people in traditional societies. We are experiencing depression and anxiety at unprecedented rates. We are experiencing autoimmune disease at unprecedented rates. We are experiencing allergies at unprecedented rates. We are experiencing obesity and metabolic disease at unprecedented rates. All of these conditions are associated with dysbiosis. We have broken the dialogue between ourselves and our bacteria, and we are paying the price. But there is hope. The dialogue can be restored. The broken connection can be repaired. It takes time. It takes consistent effort. It takes a commitment to supporting your microbiome through diet, stress reduction, sleep, and other means. But it is possible. People who have been dysbiotic for years have successfully restored their microbiome diversity. They have recovered their mental health. They have recovered their physical health. They have restored the dialogue. The conversation between themselves and their bacteria has resumed, and with it has come healing. Rewilding your inner ecosystem. Imagine your microbiome as a garden that has been neglected. The weeds have taken over. The beneficial plants have been crowded out. The soil has become depleted. The ecosystem is out of balance. But a neglected garden can be restored. It can be rewilded. It can be brought back to health and fertility. Your microbiome is the same. No matter how dysbiotic it has become, no matter how long it has been neglected, it can be restored. The process is not quick. It is not dramatic. But it is real. And it begins with understanding that rewilding is not about force or control. It is about creating the conditions in which beneficial bacteria can thrive. The first step is to stop the damage. This means reducing or eliminating antibiotics unless absolutely necessary. It means moving away from the standard American diet toward a diet rich in whole foods, fiber, fermented foods, and diverse plant matter. It means reducing stress through meditation, yoga, or other relaxation practices. It means getting adequate sleep. It means moving your body regularly. These are not radical changes. They are simply the conditions that allow your bacteria to be healthy. But stopping the damage is not enough. You also need to actively support the growth of beneficial bacteria. This is where diet becomes crucial. Eating plenty of fiber-rich vegetables, fruits, and legumes feeds your beneficial bacteria. These bacteria ferment the fiber and produce short-chain fatty acids, particularly butyrate. Butyrate strengthens your intestinal barrier. It promotes the growth of more beneficial bacteria. It signals to your immune system that everything is fine. It crosses the blood-brain barrier and promotes brain health. A diet rich in fiber is perhaps the single most important thing you can do to support your microbiome. Fermented foods are another powerful tool. Yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, miso, tempeh, and many other fermented foods contain live bacteria. These bacteria can colonize your gut and contribute to your microbiome diversity. Fermented foods are not just nutrition, they are direct interventions in your microbiome. They are a way of literally introducing beneficial bacteria into your system. Eating fermented foods regularly is like planting seeds in your internal garden. Over time, these seeds take root. The beneficial bacteria establish themselves. Your microbiome becomes more diverse and more healthy. Probiotics are another option. Probiotic supplements contain live bacteria in concentrated form. They can be a useful tool for restoring microbiome diversity, particularly after a course of antibiotics or during a period of severe dysbiosis. However, probiotics are not a substitute for diet. You cannot take a probiotic pill and then continue eating a terrible diet and expect to restore your microbiome. The diet is the foundation. The probiotics are a supplement to the diet. Stress reduction is crucial. When you are stressed, your bacteria suffer. Your stress hormones damage the beneficial bacteria and promote the growth of harmful bacteria. Meditation, yoga, slow deep breathing, and other relaxation practices reduce your stress hormones. They create an environment in which your beneficial bacteria can thrive. Even a few minutes of meditation or deep breathing each day can have a significant impact on your microbiome. You do not need to be perfect. You do not need to meditate for hours. Small, consistent practices create lasting change. Sleep is equally crucial. When you get adequate sleep, your circadian rhythm is regulated. Your bacteria's circadian rhythm is regulated. Melatonin and GABA production increase. Your immune system functions optimally. Your stress hormones decrease. You are creating the conditions in which your bacteria can thrive. Prioritizing sleep is one of the most important things you can do for your microbiome. Movement is another key factor. Regular physical activity promotes the growth of beneficial bacteria. Exercise increases the diversity of your microbiome. It promotes the growth of bacteria that produce beneficial metabolites. You do not need to be an athlete or exercise intensely. A regular walk, gentle yoga, or any consistent movement practice is beneficial. The key is consistency. Regular movement over time creates lasting changes in your microbiome. Social connection is also important. Loneliness and social isolation promote dysbiosis. Spending time with people you care about, having meaningful conversations, feeling connected to a community, these experiences support your microbiome health. The mechanisms are not entirely clear, but the correlation is strong. People who have strong social connections have more diverse microbiomes than people who are isolated. Your bacteria benefit from your connection to others. The rewilding process is gradual. You will not wake up one day and find that your microbiome has completely transformed. But over weeks and months, as you consistently support your microbiome through diet, stress reduction, sleep, movement, and social connection, changes will occur. Your mood will improve. Your energy will increase. Your anxiety will decrease. Your sleep will improve. Your digestion will normalize. The benefits accumulate. The transformation deepens. Your inner ecosystem rewilds itself. You are not alone. You are many. For most of human history, we have understood ourselves as individual beings. We have seen ourselves as separate from nature, separate from other people, separate from the microscopic world. We have imagined consciousness as a product of an isolated brain, trapped inside a skull, looking out at the world through our eyes. This image of the self as a unified individual entity has shaped our philosophy, our psychology, our medicine, our entire understanding of what it means to be human. But this image is incomplete. It is a useful fiction, but it is not the whole truth. The truth is far more beautiful and far more complex. You are not a single individual. You are a community. You are a parliament of trillions of beings, most of them not human. You are an ecosystem. You are a collective consciousness. The thoughts you think are not produced by your brain alone. They are products of a collaborative process involving your brain, your bacteria, your immune system, and countless other systems and organisms. The emotions you feel are not entirely your own. They are products of a chemical conversation between your bacteria and your brain. The decisions you make are influenced by signals coming from your gut, signals that your bacteria are sending. Understanding this is profoundly liberating. It means that you are not alone in your struggle. You are not isolated in your suffering. When you feel depressed, your bacteria are affected. When you are anxious, your bacteria are struggling. When you feel isolated, your bacteria are suffering the effects of your isolation. But this also means that you have allies. You have trillions of partners working to support your health and well-being. You have an entire civilization of beings invested in your survival and flourishing. You are never truly alone. This understanding also shifts your relationship to your own body. Instead of seeing your body as a machine that you need to control and dominate, you can see it as a living ecosystem that you need to collaborate with. Instead of seeing illness as a failure of willpower or a personal weakness, you can see it as a disruption in the dialogue between yourself and your bacteria. Instead of seeing health as something you need to force yourself to achieve through discipline and self-denial, you can see it as something that emerges naturally when you support the ecosystem that you are. This shift in perspective is not just philosophical, it has practical implications. When you understand that you are not alone, when you recognize that you have trillions of partners working for your well-being, you become gentler with yourself. You release the harsh self-judgment that often accompanies mental health struggles. You recognize that depression or anxiety might be a sign that your bacteria are struggling, not a sign that you are weak or broken. This gentleness is itself therapeutic. It reduces stress. It supports your microbiome. It opens the door to healing. When you understand that your decisions are influenced by your bacteria, you release the illusion of total control. You stop trying to force yourself to make choices through willpower alone. Instead, you focus on creating the conditions in which your bacteria want what is good for you. You eat foods that feed your beneficial bacteria, not because you are disciplining yourself, but because you are supporting your partners. You move your body, not because you think you should, but because you are supporting the ecosystem that you are. You reduce stress, not out of obligation, but out of love for the trillions of beings that make you whole. This is the peace that comes from understanding yourself as many rather than one. It is the peace of surrender. Not surrender in the sense of giving up, but surrender in the sense of letting go of the illusion of total control. It is the peace of recognizing that you are part of something larger than yourself. You are part of a community. You are part of an ecosystem. You are part of a vast web of interconnection that extends beyond your individual body, beyond your individual mind, into the entire living world. When you feel the weight of your own thoughts, when you feel the burden of your own emotions, when you feel the pressure of your own decisions, remember this: you are not alone. You are many. The thoughts you think are not yours alone. The emotions you feel are not yours alone. The decisions you make are not yours alone. You are in constant dialogue with trillions of beings. You are part of a collective consciousness, and this collective consciousness is wiser than you are. It is more resilient than you are. It is more capable of healing than you are. All you need to do is listen. All you need to do is support. All you need to do is collaborate. The symphony continues. We have journeyed together through an invisible universe. We have explored the trillions of bacteria that live within you. We have traced the chemical conversations between your gut and your brain. We have seen how your bacteria produce the neurotransmitters that shape your mood, your motivation, your sense of well-being. We have understood how dysbiosis can lead to depression, anxiety, and a disconnection from your own body. We have learned how the dialogue between yourself and your bacteria can be broken and how it can be restored. And we have discovered that you are not a single individual struggling alone, but a community of trillions working together for your survival and flourishing. The story does not end here. The symphony does not conclude. It continues. Every moment of your life, your bacteria are working. They are producing neurotransmitters. They are maintaining your intestinal barrier. They are educating your immune system. They are communicating with your brain. They are supporting your digestion, your metabolism, your energy production. They are influencing your mood, your cognition, your behavior. The conversation between yourself and your bacteria never stops. It is continuous. It is ongoing. It is the fundamental rhythm of your existence. From this moment forward, you can live differently. You can live with the knowledge that you are not alone. You can live with the understanding that your mental health is intimately connected to your microbiome. You can live with the awareness that every bite you eat is a message to your bacteria. Every moment of stress is a disruption in your ecosystem. Every moment of rest is support for your bacteria. Every decision you make about your health is a decision about the health of the trillions of beings that make you whole. This knowledge is power. It is power, not in the sense of control, but in the sense of capability. You have the capability to support your microbiome. You have the capability to restore balance to your ecosystem. You have the capability to heal. The path is not mysterious. It is not complicated. It is simple. Eat whole foods, rich in fiber and diversity. Move your body. Reduce stress. Get adequate sleep. Spend time in nature. Connect with others. Support your bacteria. And as you support your bacteria, they will support you. The dialogue will deepen. The symphony will strengthen. Your health will improve. Your well-being will expand. You do not need to be perfect. You do not need to make all these changes at once. Start small. Start with one change. Maybe it is adding more vegetables to your diet. Maybe it is taking a daily walk. Maybe it is practicing 5 minutes of deep breathing each day. Maybe it is getting to bed a little earlier. Start with what feels manageable. Build from there. Over time, the small changes accumulate. Your microbiome shifts, your health improves, your mood brightens, your sense of possibility expands. Remember, you are not doing this alone. You have trillions of partners working with you. Your bacteria want what you want. They want to be healthy. They want to produce the neurotransmitters and metabolites that support your well-being. They want to communicate clearly with your brain. They want to educate your immune system. They are on your side. They have always been on your side. All you need to do is support them. The journey from dysbiosis to health is not a linear path. There will be setbacks. There will be moments when you feel like you are not making progress. There will be times when you eat something that disrupts your microbiome and you feel the effects immediately. This is normal. This is part of the process. The key is to keep moving forward. Keep supporting your bacteria. Keep making choices that promote your health. The bacteria are resilient. They are adaptable. They can recover from disruption, and so can you. Before we part, I want to remind you to subscribe to the Relaxing Science channel if you have not already. Give this video a like, share it with others who might benefit from understanding their microbiome, and most importantly, share in the comments where you are in this moment, what time it is there, and how this exploration of your inner ecosystem has affected you. Your voice matters, your experience matters, your presence in this community matters. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the invisible universe within you. Thank you for opening your mind to the possibility that you are not alone, that you are many, that your bacteria are your partners in health and well-being. Thank you for taking the first steps towards supporting your microbiome. The symphony continues. Your bacteria are still working. The dialogue between yourself and your bacteria is still unfolding. And every choice you make from this moment forward is a choice to support that dialogue, to deepen that connection, to strengthen that symphony. May you find peace in knowing that you are never truly alone. May you find strength in recognizing that you have trillions of partners working for your well-being. May you find healing in supporting your microbiome. May you find joy in the knowledge that your bacteria are producing the chemicals of happiness within you right now. May you live in harmony with the vast ecosystem that you are. And may you return to this understanding again and again whenever you need to remember that you are not one but many. You are not isolated but connected. You are not struggling alone, but part of a vast symphony of life. The journey continues. Listen to your bacteria. Support your microbiome. Love yourself as the ecosystem that you are. And know that in doing so, you are not just healing yourself. You are healing the trillions of beings that make you whole. We are all connected. We are all one. And yet, we are gloriously, beautifully, infinitely many. End of screenplay. Total.